Hey everybody, this is Todd McFarlane, creator of Spawn, and you're listening to Monsters, Madness, and Magic. No better place to be.
Todd, take us back in time. You're a youngster. Are you a book
Yes.
reader, fort builder, troublemaker, or all the
Yes.
above?
Yeah, out of the womb. That started out of the womb. So, yes. If you ask my mom and said, why is Todd like he is? She will say, there was never a day that he wasn't, right? So I was trouble from day one. I remember my mom got called to the principal's office starting with kindergarten, and it was a pretty steady phone call she got. So I was on first name basis with all my principals. Yep.
What was the first offense in kindergarten?
In kindergarten, it was I drew. It was weird. I drew. I think we were doing like some painting or drawings of like Bible stuff or whatever, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I in my mind, Adam and Eve were naked, so I guess I put a willy on Adam, and so they called me and my mom in, and I don't even remember like even going to church at that time because I'm not a believer, but mom was like, "What?" And she stood up for me. I remember mom going, "What? Are you kidding me? You're calling me in here because what? Like the kid was supposed to put a leaf on. Like the kid didn't even know. He was taught Adam and Eve came into the world like he's just drawing what we taught him. So whatever. Anyways, but
Getting those anatomy studies in early.
yeah, and I'm sure it wasn't correct. I just like whatever. I don't even know what I drew, but I know I didn't put. They were naked. I don't even know what I put for the girls' woo woo because it took a long time before I would have seen one of those. So, but anyways, I don't know. So maybe I should. Maybe they just wanted me to just do like naked Barbie Kens, where they're androgynous. But
Right.
anyways, and then it just began from there. So
So, what about some of the earliest books and comics you were reading as a kid?
I didn't start collecting comics till I was about 16. So, I mean, the odd time I recall having, if we were going on a road trip, dad would stop at the grocery store or the 7-Elevens, which were pretty new. I was living in California. And, here's a chocolate bar. And then they'd buy a couple comic books and throw them in the back. But I mean, that was about sort of the extent of it. So there wasn't anything hardcore not until I was about 16. So I've often said I was sort of the opposite guy, right? That at that point I had a date. She would grow up and we would grow up and get married later. But that I sort of started dating girls, then started collecting. Usually it goes the other way, right? So
Yeah.
you're a geek from 5 to 10, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, she's beautiful, and you fall in love with people. So, anyways, I was a weird guy, so I started collecting at that point, and it wasn't that I collected anything with a fetish. I just started collecting everything Marvel, and then said, well, I'm gonna collect Marvel. Why not DC? And then DC, and then eventually companies like First Comics and Pacific Comics and alternate stuff came out. I ended up getting all of it. So, and I ended up working at comic shops and being a psycho. I mean, I had a collection of about 25,000 at one point. So
Shit.
I had a lot. So
So you mentioned you didn't start collecting until later. You were 16, but were you a big reader before then in general?
no,
Like,
I mean, it's a weird. You know what? It's a weird one. That definition's a weird one because my wife scratches her head and is frustrated to some extent that like you don't even read books, Todd. I don't understand how you can be a writer and how you can do whatever. Like I like because she's a professor with a master's degree, so she's super intelligent. And I try to remind her that it's like, well, her name's Wanda. Well, Wanda, like no, I do actually read. What I don't read is 100 pages of the same topic. I don't do that. I'm and probably a lot of that came because I had a brother, you're younger, brother, you're older, and we were into sports, right? And to this day, this is true. I don't really. I'm like a savant with sports. I'm like a sports fanatic. But ask me like how many games do I watch, and the answer is not many. But what I do watch or what I do read are the ones that within 40 minutes, 30 minutes, I get all the highlights of 25 games, right? So I'm a guy, so she thinks I'm not reading. I go, well, no, I read a lot. I just read like about 120 articles about 120 topics a day, so that I know I'm one of those guys. I'm just dangerous enough to know a little bit about everything, all the way around, instead of sitting there trudging through a 400-page book about one story. Just any more than I want to watch a 10-hour movie. I just like, no, I'm good. I'm good at 2 hours, and then if I got another 2 hours, I'll go to another movie. Right? I don't need so. I read. I'm just not. If you said, what is your favorite book? Then it's like, shoot, right? Like I couldn't give it to you because I don't really, it just sounds weird. I don't really read books. So, I mean, I'm talking about novels.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I got you.
So speaking of movies, were you into television or movies as a kid?
Shoot. I think my bad eyes came from sitting too close watching TV way too much. So yeah, I watched way too many cartoons when I was a kid. And I don't know how old you gentlemen are, but the way that it used to work, because again, I'm a kid of the 60s, right? So
Right.
they had in the very beginning in the morning, there was like cartoons on. So you could watch cartoons while you were getting ready to go to school. And then they had early morning, afternoon cartoons. So as soon as you got home from school, like 3 o'clock, then that was a big time for you came home and you go, oh my God. And then there was like a couple, more cartoons. That's when Speed Racer and Kimba the White Lion and all that stuff came on, right? And some of the superhero stuff at that point. But yeah, what are you talking about? I sadly watched way too many cartoon shows, right? But in the process of that, let me just tell you, in the process of that, I also had to absorb a lot of commercials, right? And there's one commercial, like I keep telling people, but a lot of my life sort of motivation are built upon a couple commercials. But the one that had the biggest impact on me, and it's still to this day is sort of my North Star, is the one with the big cool dude, big fuzzy brown dude with the cool hat. And he would look at me because it came on all the time. So probably I saw it 8 times a day. And the big dude would come on there and he'd point to me and he'd go, only you can prevent forest fires. Now, when I was like 7 and 8, I went, man, you're talking about a lot of forest fires. And then by the time I got 9, I must have got a little more sophisticated. I just went, wow, he's actually not talking about forest fires. He's talking about me and my life, and be responsible for it. And stop passing the buck, Todd, that it's your fucking life and you don't get to basically push it off on anybody. You own every single action and emotion in your body, period. So I've only taught my kids 2 things. One, don't talk if you're ignorant about the subject. And 2, never ever tell me somebody made you do something, because nobody on this planet has dominion over your body to make you act or think a certain way. You choose every one of your decisions. Now, I'm not saying that your decisions, whatever they are, good, bad, or indifferent. That's a whole nother conversation. But what I'm saying is, if you're at a bar and somebody bumps you and you go, hey, excuse me, but hey, cool. And then he bumps you again, poof. And you say, hey, dude, I'm sitting here. Like, you mind a little bit of space. And then he pushes you that 4th time, the 5th time. And then finally he goes, fuck you, when you say something. I'm not saying that whatever your reaction is good, bad, or indifferent. But what I'm saying is, even if you choose not to walk away, if you choose to punch him in the face, and I'm not saying that's not the right move. There's no human being that can make me make a fist right now. There's only one human being on the planet that can make me do that, and that's me. So even if I choose to punch him, it was my choice. I get it. He pushed me 8 times and provoked me. I'm not disputing that. But I'm saying that my decision to make a fist and throw it back is me. So I have to deal with whatever those consequences are of throwing the punch. Good, bad, or indifferent. So I just don't have patience, gentlemen, for excuses. Just like, I don't know. I get pretty black and white about stuff, and my wife thinks it's way too simple at times, because she goes, well, people don't have the luxury to just do what you're saying, which I'm just going, you don't like your boss, fucking quit. like you don't like the weather where you're at, move to a place where you like the weather.
Right.
But what we do, which I don't have the patience to do, is talk by the water cooler about stuff that you're never going to change. So if I'm not going to change something, I don't talk about it. So I usually have one priority in my life, and everything else is white noise. Everything else is white noise. So let's say my priority is I want a brand new red Corvette. It's going to cost me 50 grand. All right. My goal, I got to get 50 grand. Do I give a shit what my job is? Nope. Do I give a shit whether I get along with my employees? Nope. Do I give a shit whether I get along with my boss? No. The goal is $50,000 in a red Corvette. Because if the answer is, well, I want to get along with my coworkers, then that has to be your number one goal. And the Corvette has to drop. You don't get it all. Wow, I want a Corvette, and I want to have friends, and I want to get a good salary, and I want to have a nice job, and I want the weather to be nice, and I hope that I could go on a steady date and have good relationships. I get it. You want everything. So do the rest of us. Get in line with the 8 billion other people on this planet. Give me one, chew it like a bone, like a dog, accomplish it, and then move on. Or you can change your goals. To me, I don't care. If you want to change from having a Corvette to saying you want to go to Greece, or you want a 60-inch TV, I don't care what it is. Then just drop the number one and put it. You can never have more than one number one. I've had people that work for me go, man, Todd, I'm young and I can't ever afford my own house, and I wish I could buy a house. And I'm like, sure, you can. You can buy a house. What are you talking about? What's the down payment? I need like 15 grand. Shoot, this is easy. And I walk them down into the parking lot. I go, which one of those cars is yours? Sell it. Oh, but how do I get to work? What? That wasn't your question to me. You didn't say, how can I have a house, and how do I get to work? That's a compound sentence. There is a comma. I thought it was a period. When you said, how do I get a house? I thought it was a period at the end of that. I told you how you can get a house. So now we got a different set of dynamics. You want a house, and you still want to keep your car. Okay. Well, then don't go on any vacation. Well, yeah, but I like going. Okay. Oh, you want your car, and you want your house, and you want your vacation. Like, at some point, we move from attainable goals to dreaming. And there's a difference between dreams and goals. Everybody always says, you can accomplish all your dreams. Here, I'll give you my definition between a dream and a goal, right? A dream is, I'm going to jump off a 50-story building, and I'm going to wish that I have sprout wings. That's a fucking dream on the way down. There is no goal that will get me to sprout wings. That's a dream. Now, if I build an apparatus on my back, so I've got some kind of parachute or something else, whatever else, then the goal is like, I don't want to squish when I get down there. I mean, there's a way to get there. But I think we mix up those two words way, 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 way too easy. All right? Goals are attainable, potentially. I'm not saying you will get to them, but you can set goals and then move towards the goals. Oh, by the way, if you make bad moves, the goals become very, very hard. If you want to be the president of the United States and a drug addict, I think that's going to be a really steep hill. I don't think those two are compatible. I don't know. There are pitfalls along the way of life and I think it's what most parents do for their children. If my kids came to me and said, Dad, I want to be president, I don't know how to help them. I've never been president. How would I know how to become president? Here's what I do know. I know how not to be president. So you want to become an alcoholic and a drug and beat your loved ones? Shoot, dude, I'm telling you, I promise you, you won't be the president. So all we do as parents is just block the pitfalls and the pothole, and we say, turn around, children. The glory is out there. I don't know how to help you that much. All I can do is stop you from making the bad decisions. Why? Because we're older. We're older. And we've made more mistakes. That's one of the benefits of being old. We've made more mistakes. We know where the mistakes are. So it doesn't mean we're smarter than you. It just means we know where the mistakes are. So I don't know. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. It's gonna do.
Hey, well said.
So, I mean, it sounds like that philosophy has been with you for a long time. Because, like, you know, if we're talking about your writing, early issues of Spawn, I feel like autonomy and taking responsibility is a pretty heavy topic in the early part of that story. Would you agree with that?
To the extent of, if my aggravation personally is that I'd like to do stories that I would like to draw, I only have a couple of choices. I either ask where I'm working if they'll accommodate that request, and sometimes they will, right? I mean, again, some businesses will accommodate an employee's needs. And if they don't, then you either have to find another employer or you just have to do it yourself. You're limited in your choices. But here's what won't change the situation. Bitching about it. Okay, cool. So you bitched about it. Now what? Right? Like, I don't know. Like, here's something that I've discovered as I've gotten older, just so you gentlemen know. I used to think when I was younger, like, come on, man, everybody, come on, let's go, right? Right, power to the people, right? Let's revolution, let's go. And then I have hopefully matured a little bit in that I just go, you know what? And part of it was because I had 3 kids myself. There's personalities. And personalities are at times baked. They're just baked. Very tough to take a passive person and at the age of 65 turn them into a madman. No, they've been a gentle, kind, considerate human being for 65 years. Not going to change, right? You know, might get angry about it a little bit, but never going to change. So the things that are super easy for a guy like me to do, I now realize that it's just part of my personality, right? Because I am fearless. And I'd say that across the board. Like, I'm not afraid of bullies. My wife said, Todd, you're going to get killed. Somebody's going to kill you because big people accost me on streets and stuff, and I just won't put up with it. And it's like, Todd, that guy would kick your ass, right? I know. Intellectually, I know he's 4 inches taller and he's 80 pounds heavier, and he would beat the shit out of me. But I just won't be afraid. I just won't give the bully that satisfaction. Now, is it smart? No, because I could get my teeth knocked out. Fine. But I'm just saying, I'm devoid of fear. And so at times that fearlessness has been useful, right? It's like, because why? Because I think, my wife will tell you, I think I can pretty much do anything. Like, yeah, I can do that. Screw it. They're going to get me mad. I'm going to go do it myself. I'm going to start a company. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go here, whatever. And luckily, I've had enough success. I've got money. I can back it up with my own money and just go, yeah, I'm going to do it. And I never, ever, ever think there's going to be one day where I'm not going to succeed until the day comes where I don't succeed. And then I go, oh, man. Now, again, I played baseball, just so you guys know. The competitive was always that. Yeah. Two brothers. What are you talking about? Every day was a competition. And I played baseball. For 4 years, I got my college paid for playing baseball. You think that there was one single at bat where I thought the pitcher was better than me? Never. 0 for 4 games with 3 strikeouts? Of course I did. But even on the day where I struck out the first 3 times, do you think I conceded the 4th at bat? No, I was delusional enough. And there's a fine line between being dedicated and being stubborn and being delusional. We can have that topic. And then even on the fourth at bat, I just go, this time for sure, dude. And I get up there, and I thought I was going to get them the fourth time, and sometimes they'd strike me out the fourth time. And then when the game was over, I'd tip my hat, and I'd go, dude was better than me today. But not for 1 second while we were playing the game. Not for 1 second. So to me, business is just playing games, right? And I'm just like, and they're the bad guys. They're the competition, and we got to outscore them today. Let's go. What do we got to do? Right?
Right.
Let's go. So, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. That's okay. I can take the losses. And here's the piece. Here's the piece of which I tell everybody, even my own employee. I think everybody should be an entrepreneur at least once. Because I think almost every human being can accept failure when they know they were in the pilot seat of that film. They were the ones making the decisions, because now the only person they get to blame is the person that they basically look in the mirror with, right? So it's way easier to swallow a failure in which I made, because at the end of the day, I love me. I love me. I'm never kicking me out. Oh, and by the way, even if I don't love me, I'm stuck with me till I die. Like you two gentlemen, at the end of this conversation, end of the day, at any time in your life, you can say, that Todd's a crazy dude. I don't want to hang out with him. And you get to walk away. I never get to walk away. So at some point, you got to, just like Whitney Hughes, you got to learn to love yourself first before you can sort of love the rest of it, right? So I can't get mad at myself too long. So I'm like, yeah. So have I succeeded every time? Of course not. Have I failed many, 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 many times? Have I made horrible decisions? Of course I have. Luckily, I make like more right decisions than wrong. And so the batting average is, not bad. So you just accept that part of the equation is you're going to get failures along the way. You just treat yourself, maybe bad analogy, you just treat yourself like a Mexican cartel. You just go, of course, some of the drugs are going to get stuck at the border and caught. But 94% got across. It's good for business. Like, it's okay. They're okay with the 6%. I'm okay with this, with the 10, 20% failures that I have, because the other 80% work. Good. Done.
Right. So Todd, you've had this competitive spirit your whole life, basically. When do you begin to experiment creatively and maybe start drawing and trying to write a little bit?
Oh, since day one, like I told you, I was drawing naked willies at kindergarten. So here's what I know. One, in kindergarten, I won an award for some best painting in the area. Right, first time I ever went to a baseball game. We were living in Anaheim, California, and I went to my first baseball game because I'd won, and it was a baseball player I painted. And they hung it up in the stadium. So my dad says, hey, you want to go to the game? You can see your painting. And I was like, oh, man, cool. It was my painting. But even more so, oh, my God, baseball, right? Because my dad had a black and white TV, and I got to see baseball in color. I mean, this is that moment in The Wizard of Oz where she comes out of the black and white into the color. It was life-changing to me. But I also recall, which is weird, some of the things you remember, in kindergarten, where we have to draw, again, everybody painted in kindergarten, right? Like, let's paint some farm animal or paint whatever. And so I think we were supposed to do a cow out in the pasture. So I painted it, and then I remember the teacher coming. I don't know why. I don't remember why I remember that. But the teacher looked at me and she went, oh, man, that's too bad, Todd. And I went, what? And she goes, well, the sky is blue. It's got some blue. It's got some blue in it. And, everything is green. And because you can understand, like at 5 years old, the typical way of drawing is you got a piece of paper, you draw a straight line, you draw the cow, here's the grass, and here's the sky, right? And I had put a little bit of a tree in there. So it was a lot of green. But I was like, no, teacher. No. The reason you can't see the sky is because, like, I'm in the tree and I'm looking down at the cow. So I didn't know the terminology, but it was a perspective, and I was doing a down shot, right? So in my mind, if you're in a tree and you're looking down, you're not looking up at the sky. So of course it would all be green, right? To be the cow. I don't know if I did the cow in perspective, but there was a cow, and then it was all, but the thought process was already there, right?
Right.
And what seemed wrong was just maybe a little bit of advanced sort of skill over some of the other kids in the class. And then I become the proverbial best artist in the class, right? And doodle the shit out of stuff, always doodling. And then at 16, start collecting comic books, American comic books, and which is a style. And I just sort of got smitten by the comic books and went, I'm going to teach myself how to draw superhero comic book style. And that was it. And then I just became, as you can imagine, fanatical about teaching myself that style. And to the point that I did it for years. And then when I was in college, I knew I had 4 years to send off my samples. And I sent off hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of samples and got hundreds and hundreds of rejections. But I didn't care because I was in school. I had 4 years. And 3 weeks before I graduate, I get a phone call after literally hundreds and hundreds of rejections. And I had sent my samples to every company, every editor, month in and month out. I was relentless, gentlemen. I was relentless. And I there's a part of me that thinks they gave me a job because it just went, oh, for the love of God. I just feel like at one meeting, they had like all the Marvel editors. And they go, oh my God, we got 15 editors and we get 15 fucking packages from this kid every month. Could somebody just give him a job so we get one package? Right? Like this guy is just killing way too many trees, sending us package after package after package. So I don't know how they got to their resolution. There was a little bit of, one of the samples I had was this character called Coyote that was at the Epic line at Marvel at that point. And so I sent it to the X-Men office, and Ann Nocente, who was right next door to the Epic office, walked it over to Archie Goodwin. Archie Goodwin went, hey, that looks like Coyote. I'm going to send it to Steve Englehart, who was the one, it was called Steve Englehart's Coyote. I'm going to send it to Steve, see if he needs any art. And he sent it to Steve, and Steve didn't need somebody to do Coyote, but he needed somebody to do 10 pages in the backup. And that was it. That was the phone call, right? Hey, Todd, I saw your Coyote. I don't need anybody to draw Coyote, but you want to draw 10 pages of another character. And so then that was it. That was the beginning of the career. 3 weeks before I graduate, going, oh, cool. I got a degree. I thought I was going to be a graphic designer, but I never had to go get quote unquote a real job.
It's no secret, Todd, that you started working on Spawn when you were a teenager. It was in your head. What were the earliest nuggets that you remember of inspiration for the character?
At that point, I just started dating my girlfriend, who would, 7 years later become my wife. So it's odd because I actually put the story away for a while. When I came back in 1992 and just sort of went, here's the story. And I went back and actually reread, because I started a 50-page comic book that I still have from when I was 16, 17. I was talking to somebody the other day, somebody in the business, and go, you should finish that book and print it, right? Your 16-year-old Spawn comic.
Yeah, you should.
You still have all the pages. It was based in space because at that point, Star Wars had just sort of come on the scene. So this is how old I am, right? I'm going way back to the beginning of Star Wars. But interestingly, the concept was still the same. He was burnt underneath the costume, and he sort of had come back because for the love of his life, and sort of got tricked along the way. So some of the core pieces of it were still there. And oddly enough, if you look at that very first drawing that I, or the very first, what would have been the first cover, I still have, kind of is the same costume. The only thing I added was some chains and some spikes, right? Just to sex them up a little bit. But I even had a logo with the skull in the center, right? Which today is, still the logo. So I don't know. It must have burnt into my psyche a little bit more than I thought, because even 15 years later, 14 years later, when I end up pulling them out and going, hey, we're at Image Comic Books, it's now 1992. I didn't really go back and refresh myself. I just liked the character design. And so I went, and then I was surprised. I was probably on issue 4 or 5 when I sort of said, maybe I should go read what it was I wrote when I was 16. It was actually a little shocking to me how close some of the big moments were there, because I just thought he looked cool, which is sort of why I wanted to make him my first character Image.
You know, you weren't really raised in the church, I think you said, and
Nope.
you're not a believer in everything.
Nope.
How did the
Well, I might be the least believer on the planet. So.
Right. How did the religious elements of Spawn come into play then? Was that just purely fantasy, or were there reasons you wanted to go that route?
Yeah, there were a couple reasons. One, and this is interesting, I've said before, of course it has to be a guy like me that's going to mess with sort of things like heaven and hell, because
Right.
I don't think I'm on any, there's no blasphemy for me, right?
Right.
I just we're like, I think somebody else that's a true believer would be at times a little timid, right? Because they're like, oh, I was taught that way, and I don't know. Where I think it's all open. It's all good fodder. And so the concept of it was a couple. One, sort of taught a couple things when we're sort of younger or whatever else. But one of the things is like, corporations, the government, they're sort of bad for you, whatever. So if you take that to the next level, right, you go, okay, Superman and Batman can't go against corporations and government. Whether I agree with the premise or not, we just like to say things like that as a society. And we go, okay, fine. But then it's like, wow, no, it has to be something bigger than that. So it has to be like a villain running a corporation or a government, right? You have to have your Doc Doom, and you have to have your Kingpin and those kinds of characters, your Lex Luthors. So, but then I went, well, while everybody else is doing that, what's the next level? Yeah, so I was just trying to keep upping. This is the competitive nature. I was just trying to up the level. So what's the level of bad and good and evil? And at some point I just went, oh, that's upstairs and downstairs, right? Everybody's taught that, whether you agree with it or not, we're all taught it. So it's like, oh man, if I put him in a position where someday he can solve how to rid the universe of evil, he will be the greatest hero of all time, right? Batman, Superman, they're just stopping bank robbers. What do I care? My guy basically got rid of evil, right? And so I just gave him a big, giant, deep, almost probably possible mission.
Mm-hmm.
What he would like to do, but within that confine, then, and I've said before, Spawn is just me. He didn't really care. He didn't, at the beginning, for about 250 issues, he didn't really care about that. Right? He's just like, whatever, right? Heaven, hell, whatever. Play your game, leave me out. Just leave me alone. I don't need to be a part of this. Leave me alone. So he didn't really care. And to be clear, he looked at heaven and hell as the exact same thing. That just, I said it before, heaven and hell are just, and Spawn are just the exact same thing to Al Simmons. In reality, in the comic book, they are. It's just one's got a better PR firm, right? So one just like sells it a lot better. Is a way better salesperson, right? But if you go through the checklist and you had the two of them there, Cain and Abel, heaven and hell, Satan, God, whatever terminology you want to use, you're like, raise your hand. You would like to dominate your opponent. Okay, they're both going to raise their hand. You would like everybody on the planet Earth to bend the knee to you. They're both going to raise their hand. You would like to basically build an army so that when Armageddon comes, you can make sure that you're going to be sitting at the head of the table and you're going to be the king. They're both going to put, like, there's nothing that the other guy doesn't want, that the other guy does. I mean, they're under the guise of it a little bit. So to Spawn, he's like, I don't care, heaven, get out of my face. I don't care, hell, get out of my face. And this is just going back to, I think, most human beings. I just want to lead my own life. I just like to make my own mistakes and maybe make some good decisions and get temptation out of the way, which is what I treat heaven and hell. They're just temptation, right? And Spawn's theory, Al Simmons' theory, is just get off the planet, leave us alone. We are flawed beings, and I'm sure we'll blow up the planet someday because we're knuckleheads. Right. But in the meantime, let us just live our lives. Let us just stop with all of your interference. Right. Get away. But for 250 issues, he was sort of passive. I would call him passive. And then he got to the point where he just came back and he just sort of matured, because I go, he's been around for this long. He's got to make a decision. His wife died. So it's not like he can sit there and lament about his wife because his wife is dead. I mean, he still pines for her, but she's dead. And so it's like he's never going to get remarried to her. She's dead. So that piece that drove him for so long is gone. So now all he can do is say, I don't want anybody to go through the experience that I did, because it's horrible. So all I can do is try and flush this temptation, good, bad, or indifferent, off Earth, right? Oh, by the way, which is why I expanded the books. I need more people than just me. I understand now. I'm mature enough to know that it's just not one person. Oh, by the way, I may make the wrong mistake and may get killed. So I'm going to need people that are going to be able to keep the legacy going on. Okay, and I'm a willing participant for the first time. Before I was like, guys, if you want to go play football, go play football. What do I care? I don't want to be a part of it. But now he accepts that he will never be normal. He will never be human. He will never be married to his wife again. And so all he can do is just try and squeegee off Earth all of the forces that basically try and manipulate us every day. And that's where he's at. And on top of that, he then went and read the rule book. And now he knows the game. And before he was like, I don't care. And they had the edge because they were able to play. But now he knows the game. And it's like, shit, dude. So now for 250 issues where he was saying, just leave me alone, just leave me alone, he's actually going to flip that. And he's going to come after them. And he's going to make them say what he used to say. Hey, Spawn, what are you doing? Just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. And he's not going to. Any more than they left him alone. He's just going to go, no, you're going to feel what I felt. Here we go. So until you walk away and you leave us alone, you get off this planet. No, I'm never going to leave you alone. Here we go.
All right.
That's it. That's where we're at.
Todd, you've illustrated some classic comic book characters. What I wanted to ask you is, when you're drawing a character, say take someone like Spider-Man, how do you toe the line between staying true to the original concepts and designs and putting your own stamp on things?
You don't know until you get in trouble, I guess.
That was what I was getting at. Have you gotten in trouble before?
Oh, sure. Yeah. What are you talking about? I've told the story when I was doing Spider-Man, how many times I got called in the office. Every time I went into the office, I got called into the upper office and got the finger wagged at me because I was messing with tradition. So I guess I got out of their comfort zone. I didn't think I was doing anything that big of a deal. So in my mind, it was like, so I nudged it a little bit to the left. Okay, where, they thought I had nudged it 4 feet. I thought I only nudged it 2 inches. So everybody's perception is different on certain words, right? Big, tall, strong, handsome, whatever. And so my altering Spider-Man, which I thought was only a little bit, sort of rattled the sort of establishment there. And I understand in hindsight, Spider-Man was their corporate icon. He was on their checks, their stationery, their 90-day weekly reports, because they were a public company at that point. He was sort of the stamp. He was the horse, in the oval for Ford Motor Company. Right. And I was messing with it. And okay, the problem was, and the conflict was, that messing with that logo increased sales.
Yeah.
So it would be like, Todd, you're messing with the Mustang logo for Ford. But I go, yeah, but ever since I've done that, sales have gone up and you're selling more cars. So the question is, which is where the conflict came in, are we in the business of making sure the logo stays the same, or are we in the business of some fucking cars, Ford? Right? So for Marvel, it was, I don't know. I thought you hired me to sell comic books. Silly me. And if you look, I saw at times during that run, I was selling more comic books than any human being they employed. Are we having this conversation? Why do you care how I sell the most comic books? I mean, I think you should be plotting and cheerleading and advertising it. You're not doing any of that. But I think that should be some of the first steps. That you're telling me that I'm somehow the bad guy here, that we're in the office and you're wagging your finger at me because I'm selling more fucking comic books than anybody you employ? I guess it depends. What's the goal?
Yeah.
What is the goal? I thought the goal was that there was a party at Bill's house at 10 o'clock. And we were all going towards that goal. In this case, the goal is sell comic books. That's the equivalent of Bill's party. And I got to the party and I got there on time and I helped make the party a success. And all you cared about was that I didn't take the same streets and the same highways that you took to get to the party. I didn't know it was about the journey. I thought it was about the goal. And the goal is to sell comics. You don't have to like me. You don't have to like my attitude. You don't have to even like my drawing style. But the audience does. Who cares? They did. They did. The answer was they did. So they just wore me out. Gentlemen, they just wore me out. I've said before, I've talked to business classes with my wife bringing me in to talk to her classes. I go, look, I'm getting to be an old man. I'm going to tell you a couple of truisms that I think location. That's it. And death and taxes. That's it, right? It's weird. There's really only 200% in the world, right? There's only 200%. One, we're all going to die. Done. Just check that box, right? Just a matter of one. Check it. The other one is change. That's the only 100%er other than death. Change. And we know that to be true because otherwise we'd all be in caves right now. So we know that change, not only is it inevitable, but it's been happening since the dawn of man. We know it because we got books that tell us, and we can see it with our own eyes, even within our own lifetime, sometimes within a decade, we can see the change. And yet, I tell the students, I think your biggest enemy you will encounter in your life is status quo. People clinging to yesterday because it's the safe, easy route. I've always been somebody who didn't care about yesterday. I didn't care about yesterday. Again, going back to the baseball, I didn't care. I struck out 4 times. Tomorrow's a new day. Woo! I'm going to be great. Right. So right. I don't care. To me, the thrill of creating, the thrill of coming up with ideas is in the future. Is still tomorrow for me. I still think I got 30, 40 good years in me. I'm only halfway through this career, right? So whatever people think I've done, dude, that's the halfway mark, right? Like, come on, man. I hope to do my best work 20 years from now. Okay, cool. But what happens is corporations, business, in the sake of maintaining profits, sometimes keeping your job, whatever it is, that people then go, don't take risks. And anybody who tries to mess with that become people like me, which are disruptors and bad apples and, got a bad attitude. Why do you got to rock the boat, Todd? All those terms that they give to people like me, right? Here's what I know. Nobody, as far as I know, historically has made any significant change in the world. And I'm not saying I'm going to. I'm not putting myself into this equation. I'm just saying something out loud. Nobody has made any significant change in the world and was liked by all. You have to stop trying to be liked. I don't care. And I've said it before. I put out my cover. This is my cover of my new comic book. I put it out on Instagram. People go, I know my peers go, Todd, you don't seem to get upset, over social media and stuff. I don't. And the reason is because I don't read it. I don't read any of the comments, right? Because I assume people will vote with their dollars. If they don't like it, they won't buy it. I'll get the data. I'm going to get the data. But the false assumption here is that I'm putting up my cover to get some kind of approval. I'm not. This is where, guys, you got to shake your head. You're coming from a different perspective than me. I'm putting up that cover for only one reason, to show you what the cover looks like for the book coming out next month. Has a fact, has a matter of fact. This is the cover. I just posted it. This is the cover right here, right here. Now, you have two choices. One, you can like it, dislike it, whatever else, and not buy it. And if you don't, to some extent, I don't care why. I'm not changing a line on this cover. The other option is you like it, you think it's cool, you like the character, you're going to buy it. I don't care why you're going to buy it either. I'm not changing a line on that cover. So I'm not putting it up there for you to say, Todd, you're great, or to say, Todd, you suck. I'm saying that's the cover. That's the cover. And then tomorrow, I'm going to do another one. And I'll put up another cover. And that's it. And I don't need people to like me or whatever. I don't need that in my life. I told you, I love me way too much. I don't care if nobody else likes me. My wife likes me and I like me. I'm good. I am good at that. My kids seem to tolerate me. I'm good. Right. So I'm there. And I was at San Diego and I go, here's why. It's just math. This is all just math to me. I've got 1 million people follow me, 2 million people follow me, whatever, who cares, right? Okay, 2 million people, and if you take 2 million people and you divide it by the population of the world, 8.1 billion, and you take that fraction and you round it to the nearest whole number, you know what the number is? 0. 0. So no matter what happens, when you round it up, it's 0. So now take that theory. Okay, I put up a cover. All 2 million people love it. The math is still 0. I'm still a 0 today. Now, I put it up and all 2 million people hate it. I'm still a 0. On my best day, I am a 0. And on my worst day, I'm a 0. And once you accept that you don't matter, and I don't, then what you do get to do then at that point is be fearless and go, well, then I'm going to enjoy my life, because it doesn't matter if they all love it and they all hate it. It doesn't really matter, because it adds up to 0.
Well said.
When's the motivational speaker tour starting, by the way?
Oh,
because you can certainly
man.
do it.
I just like it. Do you know how liberating it is once you know that the thoughts of others on a big scale don't matter? You then get to just enjoy your life regardless of what others think of you. But now we're coming back to what I said earlier, personality. Some people, that's easy for a guy like me to do because I've been like that my whole life. But other people are way more sensitive.
Right.
I get it. So I can't teach you to ignore the feelings of others to the extent that I do. I can't, right? And I'm not even saying it's good or it's healthy. Just be clear. I don't want anybody to be like Todd, not even my own children, right? Because I know I'm a madman. So, but I know what my own personal motivations are. I just set goals, and everything else, like the red Corvette, is white noise. And I've said before, if you have never been the first one to be on a dance floor, you may not be built to be an entrepreneur. That's, to me, the easiest criteria I can figure out. Because the reason you've never been the first one on the dance floor is because you cared about something in that room, which is weird. Because when I go dancing with my wife, there's only one goal: me, my wife, and dancing. And
Right.
9 o'clock, the band comes out, the band starts playing, and guess what? Nobody wants to go dancing. You know who is? Honey, it's 9 o'clock. They're playing music. We came to dance. Let's go. Let's attain the goal. There's only one goal. We're going to dance tonight. Okay. Now, was my goal to dance and be liked by people in the room? No, that wasn't the goal. Was my goal to dance and have people think that I'm the worst dancer they've ever seen? No, my goal was to dance with my wife. And oh, by the way, I don't even give a fuck who the people are in that room. Strangers to me. They're strangers. So if they think that I'm Fred Astaire, I don't care. And if they think that I'm the wonkiest, messed up white dancer guy, man, dude, I don't care. Like, why would I give any power I want to a stranger? Why would I give any power of my life to a stranger? I refuse. So you know what? If everybody in this room doesn't want to dance, I don't care. I'm dancing till midnight with my wife. I guess we're going to have the whole floor to ourselves. But then you've got the next tier of people who come up and come up, come up. And then when it's really sort of super busy, then most people come up. Why? Because then they can hide. And it's like, so if you want things to be easy, then I'm telling you, you're not built to be an entrepreneur. When Steve Jobs came along and said, man, I'm gonna go into the computer business. I'm gonna go up against IBM. You think IBM said, good for you, Steve. Good for you. You know what? Yeah. Are you out of your mind? They put up every impediment that they could. Everybody who's ever in first will basically try and trip you as you pass them. And before you even get up to their heels, everybody's going to tell you it's impossible. You can't do it. What are you doing? You're in your garage. What are you talking about? What are you going to call it? You're going to name it after a fruit? What are you talking about? Come on, guys. Like, and on and on and on. And then guess what happens? Just like history, it repeats itself for the thousands, if not the millionth time. It actually worked, change. And somebody showed that there was a better innovation, a better technology, a better way of doing it, whatever it is. The wheel comes along. Oh, wow, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. So, and all of a sudden we go, right? Now, the other piece, I'm getting old enough, no, shut up, is the whole, like, this young generation. I just had a conversation with somebody the other day. The young generation, you know, they're so entitled, whatever. First off, if we have entitled children, it was because we, the parents, made them that way. So we're the guilty ones. So it's weird that us parents don't want to take any of the blame for this new generation, which is an odd concept. But I don't think that the new generation is anything but what they are, because the new generation is always the laziest schmucks. Why? Because that was my generation. We listened to rock and roll, and we wore bell bottoms, and we unbuttoned our shirt up to here, and we let our hair grow long. Oh my God, deviants that we were. and to me, I've said before, this conversation about the next generation being lazy has been there. I think, I don't know, name's Todd, only rhymes with God. But I think it's been there since the dawn of man. First, caveman. Honey, stay here. Go slay the lion. Gonna bring some food. He goes and wrestles that lion dead. Took him about 3 days and hours, and he's fucking cut up. And he kills that lion. He feeds his family. And then years go by, and he's sitting there with his buddies, and he's going, you know, this new generation, you know what these new cavemen are doing? They sit there and they got themselves a rock, right? A rock. I did it with my bare hands. Lazy sons of bitches needing a rock. And then the rock guy is like, you know what these lazy new generation guys are doing? They take the rock and they shave it down, and it's like a little dagger now, right? Like, I used to have to hit it and hit it and hit it with that rock. Lazy sons of bitches. And the dagger guy goes, you know what these lazy cavemen are doing now? They're taking that dagger and then they're putting it on a stick and they're wrapping it and they're calling it a spear, right? They don't even got to stab the lion. At least I used to have to get close. Look at my scars. I used to have to get close. And on and on and on. I used to walk to my girlfriends. Now they take a horse, the lazy bastard. And the horse guy, now they take a car, the lazy bastard. And now the car guy, now they've got a telephone. They don't even got to have to walk there. They don't have to get there. They don't even have to transport. They can just talk. You know what each one of those things was? Wasn't a laziness. It was an efficiency. And every time an efficiency comes in, somehow we're the lazy ones. We won't dig the hole manually with a small shovel this big. We've decided to make the shovel this big. We're lazy. And then eventually somebody says, well, You can make it way bigger than that if you put it on a machine.
So in that
Right.
same line of thought, I mean, Image Comics these days, especially like the last decade, are kind of on the forefront of cutting edge creator-owned comics. What do you think about like the youngest artists and writers you've got with Image now? I mean, what kind of innovations have you seen in this younger generation?
I don't know. In all honesty, I don't know that you need an innovation. The medium is quite simple. Words and pictures combined. That's it. That's the medium.
Mhm.
The only difference is the way you present the words and the picture. So Image comic books that started off, you guys know, basically being a superhero bent company, because that's who we were when we left Marvel.
Right,
We were all
right.
doing some of the top, Spider-Man, X-Men book. We're now very eclectic. I think comic books are, and I've said before, sort of like when I used to go to Blockbuster. You could go with your grandma and you could go with your 5-year-old, and you could say, hey, go up and down the aisle as long as you're in the right aisle. And in 10 minutes, pick your movie and come here, and we gotta check out. And everybody still comes with a round silver disc. The only difference is the content. Grandma picked something that she liked, I picked something I like, and my kid picked something they like. And I assume it was appropriate for each one of us. The format of the DVD was still the same. And so comic books, the format is the same. The only difference is the content. And so what are the innovations of the content? I don't know. They could potentially be boundless if people have the imagination. But I got to tell you, gentlemen, I don't think I've invented anything original in my entire life. Just never. Like, it's hard for me to even imagine how you invent in a vacuum. Everything
Right.
you come up with is based upon what you've already seen or what you know about. You're just an amalgamation of all your life experiences,
Right.
right? So, and you're to some extent a byproduct of your environment. Some people like to argue with that, but it's strange that there's so many Green Bay Packer fans in Wisconsin. That's a really big coincidence, I think. So, we're in San Diego, not a lot of Packers fans. But you go ahead and tell me that it doesn't make a difference, right? That people who live in India are mostly Muslims, and people who live in Texas are Christians. Like, that really worked out really well, right? No, you're a product of your environment. So what I've done, what I think other people have done with some of their books, is they just go, how do you take words and pictures and just make it maybe a little more interesting or a little more visually appealing, or bring in a character that's doing something that normally is out of the ordinary, not unique, but out of the ordinary for what we're used to in our genre. And if you just mix and match 3 or 4 things and put them together, it looks original, because
Right.
you took what already exists, but you put it in a combination that people haven't seen before. And the
Okay.
combination always gets way more credit for being original and big. And I think I've been the byproduct of way more kind words, given that I don't think I've done anything original. Because I used Steve Jobs again for that one when they came out with the iPhone. They were late to the game with the iPhone, and Steve Jobs got up there and had to sell the iPhone, and he says, hey, guess what? You can text on it. And the audience and the critics were like, Steve, cell phones have been texting forever, right? Yeah, but you can do email. They all do that, Steve. Yeah, but you can go on the internet. They all do that, Steve. Yeah, but you can download music. They all do that. Well, you can take pictures. They all do that, Steve. They all do that. What did he do with his phone? It's only 2 things. But the one that blew people, he said, oh, yeah. No, you're right. My phone does exactly what everybody else is doing, except for one thing. When they type hi, mom, for a text, guess what? They have to touch plastic, little plastic buttons. Guess what? On mine, glass. Touch glass.
There you go.
You're still typing HI space MOM. It's just my finger is touching a different substance. That was it. That was it. I mean, they did the pinch zoom, cool. But that was it. That was it.
Right.
And he built an empire to the point that he took over an entire industry. That he was one of the late people coming into the race. So this is what I tell young people: stop trying to invent. Just take what is already there and make it more efficient or make it sexier. And if you do that, people will follow.
I know we got to let you get out of here, Todd. So just to put a bow on everything here, what's on the horizon for you?
Everything. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if this is recorded or not, but today is the Spawn character comes in Call of Duty, right? So
yeah,
he's part of their new battle pass. So first time they've ever put an outside brand in one of their battle passes. So Spawn, Al Simmons, and a couple other surprises are going to be in the game today. So that's sort of the big entertainment piece today. So Spawn hanging out with the AAA brand that hopefully will introduce my character to, people who, again, as part of me being a zero, people in Poland and Portugal and Bosnia and Czech Republic all of a sudden are going to get introduced to the word Spawn. And then hopefully the reason that any of that matters is that if we can expose another 10 million people to the word and the brand, and they think it's cool, and they talk to their friends and go, man, you should see this character in my video game, super cool. I don't know what his name is, Prawn or Spam or something like that. But, you can play him. But then all of a sudden, maybe in the not too distant future, they see a movie trailer and they go, wow, that's that guy from my video game. I don't care how you get into the world, the mythology of Spawn. I'm not biased, right? I don't care how you got there. The more the merrier. And then if we can have more eyeballs be curious about the next big adventure, which is the movie. And again, they just settled, well, not 100%, but they're settling the writer's strike as we speak.
Right.
And then,
Yeah.
and then my guess is in quick order, they'll figure out the actors want. And we'll be back where we were 5 months ago, which was to finish the script because it's almost complete, and then go into Hollywood and find a buyer. So that the next big announcement will just be, we found a buyer, we've got our money, and we've got a production date. Let's go.
exciting.
Hell yeah.
And that then takes Spawn to a whole nother level, because if I tell people I did comic books and my name's Todd or whatever, most people don't care. I draw Spawn, most people don't care. But if I say I created, the visual look of Venom, what? Venom? I saw that movie, right? So movie and music and TV have this giant sort of bandwidth of people who, and so if you can get in, tap into those in a successful way. I mean, obviously, if we came out with a movie, it'd have to be successful. Then Spawn becomes part of sort of the zeitgeist that's out there that people will talk about. So we're still, like I said, I still am not at the top of the mountain. We still got to get there.
Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Todd.
All right, you guys be good.